Welcome to It's All Fine and Dangy, where we talk about community, health, culture, and all of the big and little things that make life good. Here are your hosts, Dan and Angie.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 68 of the It's All Fine and Dangy podcast. So I am super excited about the guest we have today.
So am I.
Yes, we are going to learn a lot today. I just know that. Today we are excited to have Lee Perry, and she is the program director for the nonprofit Urban Agricultural Program. That's a
mouthful.
A lot to say.
Yeah.
Here in Orlando, called Fleet Farming.
Yes, I've heard of them.
Yes, I discovered them online, and then I actually talked to Mary Weinog, and she knows some people over there. I'm not exactly sure who, but
We're going to find out.
We're going to find out. And so we are so happy to have Lee Perry with us today. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Sunday.
Yes, hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Yes, we are excited. So one of the things that we love meeting people in person, but one of the things we really love is what we get to learn from those that we meet in the community and the wonderful things that people are doing. So we are super excited to have you here.
Yes, and this is especially exciting for me because we'll get into this as we talk, but we are gardeners ourselves. We're trying to be.
Beginning stages.
Right.
Let's put it that way. We're trying to be. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm excited to learn from you and, just to kind of talk about the stuff in general.
Yes. So, tell us a little more about what Fleet Farming offers and what you do as the program director there at Fleet Farming.
Of course. And by the way, anyone who puts a plant in the ground is a hero to me. So kudos to you for experimenting.
I love it.
So Ideas for Us is the mother nonprofit of Fleet Farming, and basically it's an environmental nonprofit that helps people come together once a month during monthly meetings, and then basically puts boots on the ground and goes out and combats climate-related issues with one-off projects. And Fleet Farming was born out of one of those one-off projects. So back in 2014, we were talking through Ideas for Us during one of our Hive meetings. We were talking about all of the challenges that coincide with the agriculture industry, and monoculture farms are really ecologically devastating. That you have to utilize a lot of pesticides and fertilizers, and you emit a lot of CO2 from our current agricultural system. So we said, okay, well, what is the opposite of that? And Fleet Farming was born out of that concept, because if you take hyper-local and you take that concept and you bring it straight into a residential community where you're converting lawns, underutilized lawns that otherwise benefit nobody other than just the aesthetic appeal, and you convert them into local food systems, then you can flourish this entire movement, which is what Fleet Farming is doing in Audubon Park and in Paramore and Holden Heights.
That is awesome. So you said that it was born from Ideas for Us. So you were obviously a part of Ideas for Us, hence how you became the program director for Fleet Farming, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I was just a volunteer. I was just a general audience member. I was doing some administrative work, and it's Ideas for Us started as a college club that then grew so much momentum because all of these clubs on campuses, well, it started at UCF actually. These different college students are working towards similar goals. So why not bring them together for a monthly meeting to talk about what they have going on, and if there's anything environmental, what we can do collectively to combat those issues. And then next thing we knew, it grew so quickly into Rollins and FSU and all these other campuses. And then we now have branches all over the world. And Fleet Farming being born as an eco-enterprise from the Orlando branch, I think what my piece in the development of that was I understood how to make a business model out of this social enterprise. And now I've been promoted to being the chief operations officer of all of Ideas since then.
Wow, great.
Yeah, but basically, whenever you see an environmental issue, you can find a way to turn it into a business model that can employ people a livable wage if you can think strategically. Because if there's a problem, that means there's a demand to fix it.
That's
so
right.
why not turn that into an enterprise?
Yeah, of
Oh,
course. And if
I
there's
love
a
that.
demand, then people are going to invest in one way or another to, to take part in it.
Yeah.
So for clarity, did it start here, you're saying then?
Yes, it did
Wow.
start here in Orlando, Florida.
That's amazing.
Ideas for Us is about 10 years old, but fleet farming was basically started in 2014.
Okay,
Wow.
so it's 6 years old. Am I right? Am I adding right?
Yeah, it's going into that 6th year.
Get my math skills going here. So I'm interested to know your background a little bit because sometimes this passion for the environment starts at a very early age. Sometimes there's like an aha moment in your life. What was that for you? Was it something that, you just were passionate about your whole life? Or did you have a moment where it was like, I need to do something. I need to be more involved in making a change for the future?
Well, I get that question a lot, but I'm going to give you an answer I don't give anybody else.
Oh,
good.
well, we like that.
An exclusive.
I was a little nerd when I was a baby. My mom told me I used to yell and say that I was going to be a traveling veterinarian.
Oh.
And that I was going to like save the world and save all the animals. And so I came out kind of conscious of living things around me and giving nature a voice. Now, as I grew older, I was a I grew up in a low income family. So I understood, utilizing resources to the optimal use, the most efficiency that you possibly can.
Sure.
And, being Native American, my family from Massachusetts is from the Wampanoag tribe. So I was exposed to different ways of thinking at a very young age that I also have to say, my mom is a recovering addict. And being exposed to a lot of those things as a child humanizes people and also brings a voice to nature when you are exposed to different ways of thinking at such a young age. And so growing up, I felt very different than a lot of my peers who, didn't want to talk about bugs and compost and the things that I wanted to talk about. It was hard for me to find friends that were attracted to those types of things. And so, I worked my way through college and went to internships and things like that. I literally Googled my way into finding any environmentally friendly organizations in Central Florida that I could be a part of and donate my time. And through that, I started to build a network of people who saw my value and my passion. And because there weren't a lot of young people gravitating towards, native plants and native species, so many people lent me a hand to try to help build my career. But what I noticed in working in conservation and working in remote areas is that if you don't bring these problems straight to people's front doors, then you're always going to have the issues of corruption in our system, people not knowing that they're voting for things that aren't in their best interest. You're not going, the environment will never have a voice if you don't put it in the public eye.
Yeah,
that's
so
true.
true.
So, working all the way out in the Seminole County Natural Lands Program, I realized that developers are moving in quickly and buying up really precious, really ecologically important land so fast, and no one's really aware of it. And Ideas for Us, the first time I walked into a Hive meeting, I was like, this is different. This is important because we're having free educational opportunities for people to come together at different levels of expertise to talk about the environment and try to figure out a way to combat these problems.
And I think that was key. What you said right there is from different economical backgrounds. Those different viewpoints coming together, that is key instead of having everybody like-minded. So that's a great, what am I trying to say? Organization as far as the diversity there.
Yeah, I agree. I think but there is some like-mindedness, obviously, because, you guys all have the passion for making this work. And I won't go too far off the deep end here, but when you talk about large organizations buying up property, we know that their interests are never in our best interest, especially when it comes to things like food and, the
natural resources,
natural, you talk about native plants to Florida, and we've had a lot of conversations internally about that as we're developing our own yard right now. So I had a question. I was going to ask you early on, if you were like full speed ahead with this. I think you've kind of already answered that, but I'm just curious for the stuff that you guys do in Orlando. Is there a specific area in Orlando that you focus on? You mentioned a couple of areas. Is that kind of the exclusive area where you guys are working?
So for fleet farming, which has a different kind of radius than ideas for us, for fleet farming, we're really based in Audubon Park and in Paramore and Holland Heights. We have two offices. And that's where we're converting lawns, and we're doing these free educational opportunities every month, multiple times during the month, and teaching people how to grow food for free. But outside of that, because we went viral on NBC Nightly News back in 2015, which was a great opportunity, but we got flooded with inquiries of people who wanted us to convert their lawns. So from
I bet you did, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We got about probably 3,500 inquiries within that first year.
Wow.
And we said, we have to figure out a way to bring a service to people who don't want to do it themselves. Even though we're promoting to do it yourself, and here's a free garden guidance counselor available to you at any time. And our website, too, has tons of resources. But not everybody is mobile. Not everybody, maybe some people otherwise want to spend a bunch of money, but they feel more confident spending more money hiring experts to do it so that they can take it from there.
Yeah.
So we started an edible landscape service that is about a 20-mile radius around Orlando.
That's amazing, because you took, it's like sometimes when that opportunity knocks, right? And you guys really listened to it, because you could have just kept doing what you were doing and, staying in your smaller area in the Orlando area, but you saw the opportunity to educate more people, really. And ran with it.
And also, like, we couldn't be paid a livable wage on vegetable sales.
Sure.
Like,
Yes,
realistically, our economy is completely developed and contingent upon the ability to farm and devastate ecosystems while hiring migrant workers like pennies on the dollar, right? And that whole system has to implode at some point, because there are people who are literally living in worse conditions than slaves, honestly. They have no rights at all. They are not really looked at. They're not given any type of incentive really to work. They're making $11,000 a year, but they have to basically pay for all of their own expenses. Shout out to Farmworkers Association of Central Florida. But moral of the story on that is that we're trying to put the problems right in the faces of people on their front doorstep. And these problems include all of the environmental detriments that coincide with the agriculture industry, but then the social injustices, and then the economic opportunities that lie. Because yes, we can generate revenue selling vegetables and figuring that out, but then also being able to pay people a livable wage for the education, being able to teach classes and to sell this service. All the profit from those services go back into the free education.
Because this sort of ties in with your mission to empower people. In my brain, empowering people could mean any of those things. It could mean empower people to have sort of the edible garden or access to one, even if they're just paying the experts like you guys to do it. Or it could mean teaching them how to do it themselves. Have you seen, I know you said from the NBC clip you had a lot of traffic, but have you seen more people just genuinely interested in, because this is what I feel like I've seen, where people are starting to become more aware of not just the destructive nature of corporate level farming like that, but the food itself not really being good for us because of the way that it's made and the way that it's planted and the chemicals and everything else. So I guess my question really is, have you seen a movement for people that want to be more aware of what they eat? Is that part of the people that are coming to you as well?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I meet some incredible human beings. This job has exposed me to
Oh, I
some
bet you
people
do.
who, and I think part of my job is to try to get them on camera and share their stories as much as I can.
Sure.
But yes, there's people who, are realizing that at the end of the day, when you live in a capitalistic society, everything that is sold and marketed to you for the most part has its environmental costs,
Sure.
right? And it also has its costs to human beings, humanity, our cleaning products, the food we're eating,
Oh, yes.
the cars we're driving in, the chemicals we use to build our homes that we're exposed to. Almost everywhere you turn, more and more we're starting to realize we're subject to pollution. And people want to live better. They just don't have the time to research all of these things themselves, and it can be really intimidating.
Sure.
So
very
finding
overwhelming.
so overwhelming. Finding a way to simplify things so that it's digestible for people.
Mm-hmm.
And getting people to kind of find that enlightenment slowly through just working with us and having fun, shoveling, playing music. Who would have thought that shoveling at 9 a.m. in the morning was cool? But we try to make it appealing and social.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about some of the education that you're doing. So this is getting people out for like the volunteer work. They're learning how to do the gardening, and obviously you're educating as they go. But where are you going? Like, are you going to schools? Are you going to libraries? Like, where is this education taking place? Is it online? Kind of go through that, a little bit of that for us.
Sure. So our original model started by transforming lawns in Audubon Park, 32803, and then doing what we call a swarm ride, which is where we meet at East End Market off of Corinne Drive and ride bikes from farmlet to farmlet, which are the name that we call these converted lawns, and educating people about how our methods. We've grown since then. We're doing these edible landscaping services for individual residents, schools, veterans' homes, affordable housing units. We're building these gardens and then offering additional educational services where they can contract us to come out and teach their apartment complex how to grow food on their newly installed garden, for example.
Very cool.
But for the free opportunities are the ones where the swarm rides, where we're having people come and meet us, and by bike, we're going from farmlet to farmlet. And basically these are outdoor classrooms. Mm-hmm. We also have a really amazing internship program. We have between 30 to 80 interns a semester that come and, are either working with our communications department, where they're doing social media, marketing, etc., blog writing, grant writing, or they're working hands in the soil with our greenhouse department or right in our farming department. And I'll say that we've had over 30 students get jobs directly connected to their experiences with fleet farming. And then outside of that, we've had a lot of students get jobs just because they have some experience in the environmental industry, either throughout the U.S. or abroad.
That is quite amazing. Wow.
That is amazing. So, you started to go into the edible landscaping service, and that kind of ties into some of the services that you guys offer outside of those specific areas in Orlando. The swarm riding thing is cool. I purposely didn't look up what that was. Angie already knew before we talked because she was like, oh, that's something really cool. Just wait until she tells you about it. But is there a cost for this kind of service?
Yeah, for the edible landscape service, there is a cost. Now, mind you, the free education that we're doing in Audubon Park and in Paramore, our goal is for you to do it yourself. Our goal is for you to do it for as low budget as possible. But, like I said, not everybody is wanting to do that.
Sure.
Going to Home Depot, sourcing all those things.
Yep.
So we offer a service. Our service is a little bit more on the expensive side because I try to pay my people like $15 an hour for their labor.
Of course.
So I always try to tell people, like, please don't be shocked by our prices. We want to make sure our people are compensated well, but there are alternatives if you are of lower budget.
Sure.
And that is pretty much a 20 to 30 mile radius around Orlando. And we do custom design. So we do fruit trees, we do some edible landscaping, like literally permaculture type installations. But the main service that we're doing are the raised beds that are custom, usually 4x8, but sometimes people have really weird like patios and things that they need some custom design.
Yeah.
And we source and cut all of our own wood, and we make that design based on what your space is like.
Yeah,
wow.
That's very cool. So Dan and I have been talking about, we want to do some raised beds, but mainly we do want to do some of the pretty landscaping, of course, but we're talking about native plants, doing like the food, like an edible yard, basically.
Yeah.
Like what can we put in our yard that we can forage from?
That looks like landscaping and it's nice, but you can still eat it. Yeah.
That's right.
And that's kind of the joy of the Swarm Ride, is that you can come out and we can give you cuttings that you can easily propagate at home too. Like if you didn't have the budget to basically have us come and design this whole thing, if you wanted to start to experiment and play around, because you have to have a relationship with nature.
Yes.
Due to COVID-19, we have switched to remote consultations. So you can actually do for free. You can get 30 minutes to an hour of my time and learn all about growing food at your own home. And we do even FaceTime and things like that. So I can teach you for free how to do this at home. But it's for me, it's hard because I don't want to be just a landscaping service.
Yeah,
I don't.
Of course.
When I watch landscaping services, they get paid like $180 a month to just get out of a van and ride their riding lawnmower and just ride it and just get right back into the van, and then they leave.
Yeah.
There's no relationship, there's no connectivity to their clients. It's just a product.
That's right.
And with our service, like, we're trying to help people understand that the more you put in, the more you get out of your relationship with your yard.
Sure.
And for someone like me who is outside every day in my yard, I'm always bringing in something fresh to eat straight from my yard. And when you brought up the nutritional content, our system is designed to import from 1,500 miles away food that loses its nutritional value by 40% during that journey. Or it never reached its full nutritional content because they had to harvest it early so it would ripen on the train or plane. And that means that you are feeding yourself nutritionally void food that then can cause other health deficiencies in your immune system, which means that people are sicker naturally because we're codependent on this weaker, less nutritionally impactful food.
Yeah.
So true. And
it's right up my line. I'm a health and wellness coach, so teaching about gut health and what food is doing and not doing to us or not doing for us, whatever way you want to put it.
Right.
It's hard to get through to people. Sometimes they know, but it's very challenging. It is very challenging.
And, I'll tell you, as someone who is not in this industry at all, and I've learned so much from Angie, so that's why I'm shaking my head by some of the stuff you're telling us, Lee. But the way I kind of sell it to people that are more like me is when you start eating that stuff, forget all the health stuff for a minute. It doesn't even taste like the same food. It's like you almost can't eat that stuff that was shipped from so far away or picked when it wasn't ready because it doesn't taste anything like the food that that you get fresh.
And the other thing is Fleet Farming, what they focus on as well is planting in season, eating what's in season.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the things that people need to relearn. We're so we're catered to, right? We get food from all over the world that we would never be exposed to. So eating what you can grow in your area and when it's in season is what we need to reteach ourselves how to do. And that's what Fleet Farming is teaching people how to do as well.
Yeah. And I don't want to say, you talked about the different communities, and I don't want to say the name of this community because we actually work with and are friends with Bags of Hope, and they work with a community over here of people where they're helping to get them placed and people that are in a bit of a struggling position, and they do their barbecues and things. It's really great. But I found out right before we had this call with you today that you guys have helped them to get, farming set up there as well. And I think we saw it last time, but I didn't realize that was you guys. So it's nice to hear that you're helping that community as well.
Yeah, that was cool to see.
I mean, at the end of the day, I studied abroad. I went to Italy for a year on a scholarship, and the resources that they use are straight from their yard. When they're making tomato sauce as a whole village, they are all bringing their tomatoes from their yards to the community center and making tomato sauce to get through the winter when they're not as available, and the whole community comes together to like hand roll the pasta, and it's a whole different way of thinking. And after I ate a tomato there, I couldn't eat a tomato here from the store the same way. And I think that there's also this sense of like pride and also a therapeutic value that's brought to the table.
Totally agree.
When you put in so much sweat equity to get like one tomato, that tomato will taste better whether it's better or not, just because you did it.
You appreciate every bite.
Yeah.
And so many people right now, especially with COVID, there's a lot of emotional and mental health challenges that we're facing.
Yeah.
And when your hands are occupied in the soil, there are chemicals that are released in your brain that help you to like handle different emotions better than if you're just scrolling on social media and being triggered by like images.
Or stuck behind a computer for your day job. Like me.
Exactly. So just go outside and breathe and just try your best to just, putz around, weed your garden, do whatever.
It's soil therapy too. So we've talked about that on the show before. Like there's actual soil therapy. There is good bugs in the soil that can help boost your immune system. That feeling that you're talking about, it just gives you this, euphoric feeling kind of. And get your hands dirty, right? That's get in the soil and actually touch it and weed yourself and get out there.
And I think one of the main things I'd like to highlight about fleet farming in particular is that we're trying to create our own competitors. Like when we go to the farmers market at Lake Eola or Winter Park or other farmers markets, we were put kind of in the back behind the food trucks because we had things that people weren't ready to just buy, things that are seasonally acceptable. But, there were other, we call them Costco growers that were in the front, with beautiful fat tomatoes and broccoli and things that you don't find all year because they're importing those foods and taking the stickers off and calling it local. And even though that keeps traffic coming to the farmers market, it still is not truly a farmer's market. Whereas the Audubon Park farmer's market, they very much vet who's coming in and they only want local. And, for us, we're a nonprofit. We're not a for-profit production farm, but there's not enough policies or opportunities that help small growers do what they need to do. We are an anomaly. We are an anomaly. I've had experts come and visit us from all over the world tell us that we are an anomaly.
Wow.
But I think that other local growers need people like us to create that workforce and to, be a voice in the room with the city and county's task force talking about land ordinances and zoning and getting more commercial kitchens to create more opportunities for local for-profit growers to have a seat at the table and to be able to grow their food and sell it so they can make a livable wage.
Yeah. Lee, one of the things we talked about is as we're starting to learn how to garden ourselves and grow our own food is starting like a community garden, because we do have a plot of land here in the neighborhood that is unused. It's near a lake. Nobody even touches it. And we were thinking about, okay, what could we do to, get the community involved in this and start a little garden where we could help those that are, can't really afford that nice I can't talk right now.
I know what you mean. They can't afford the healthy stuff. They can't afford the unhealthy stuff. We've got a very mixed neighborhood around us. So I think that'd be a great thing to be able to teach them and to provide them with the food they need.
And what I was when I discovered fleet farming, you guys are in Orlando, but what does the future look like? Are you looking at expanding out into other smaller neighborhoods that can kind of start their own community fleet farming in that area? Like, I was wondering where you're going now.
Well, like for your case, we built community gardens for different HOAs and different apartment complexes and things like that. And then we've offered like soil and plant replacements as a service, or we've offered different classes as a service. You know, there's great examples of partnerships that we've had that did not need additional services, like where we've built a garden and then they had their own leadership team just take a hold of it and run with it, and they didn't need us.
Yeah, that's
really.
the empowering part, right?
And the education.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
You know, but at the end of the day, you know, we do offer all these different services. We're not trying to scale the in-ground farming piece right now, just because, you know, what we really, right now, I think our biggest focus is that Orange County made a mandate for Orange County Public Schools to have high schools required to take a Foundations of Agriculture course. Oh. And last year, the year before, 2 underserved schools that are nestled in food desert communities that don't have access to fresh produce reached out to me asking if I can start raising money to help their ag programs. Because when the county mandated this, for all of the schools that were more affluent schools, it wasn't that big of a deal because they already had like after school FFA programs, Future Farmers of America programs, where they were like raising cattle and already growing food, and they could do whatever they needed to do.
I was in that.
But FFA was popular in a lot of schools that had a little bit more of a budget. But for the underserved schools that don't have a budget, you know, these teachers are trying to teach themselves and Google their way. They weren't given lesson plans like most departments in schools. Yeah. They're just figuring it out while trying to teach these kids who already don't feel like the school has their best interest in mind because they're poor schools. They don't have the budget to have as many nice things as other schools. And FFA, you know, you have to go to competitions and things like that. And if you're showing kids who don't have a budget putting seeds in sugar sand compared to like an affluent school that has cows and pigs and all these incredible gardens that are selling 800 pounds of cucumbers a year, like they feel worse about themselves and about the fact that they're mandated to take this class. Yeah. So we started working at Jones and Evans High School, working hand in hand with the teachers to write some lesson plans and help be at the table with Orange County Public Schools to write curriculum, because our issue, why we can't scale, is because the workforce is so lacking. Like, we hire people from our intern pool, but once one person is gone, like they move on to another job, you lose so much of that important,
experience,
resource, knowledge, experience. That training someone from scratch who maybe has some houseplants, but what we do is so comprehensive, and there's no resources for urban agriculture. Like the IFAS, the University of Florida IFAS Extension Program, they're amazing. They're an amazing resource, but they don't have urban agriculture resources. We're working on we're working on filler dirt that you build a home on. Yeah. Right? With the radiation from the sun and the trace metals from your roof spilling into we have so many factors that make what we do harder.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Whereas, monoculture farms are being passed down through generations that probably have beautiful soil that they've been building over years, passing over to their next generation. So moral of the story on that is that we are trying to create the next generation of urban farmers and working hand in hand with these partners and hoping to give all of this curriculum from Orange County Public Schools to integrate it into all levels of learning, because we're also at middle schools and we're also at elementary schools as well.
That's amazing. Yeah. If you can, start when kids are younger even, and if it's a part of that curriculum from when you're very little, then you are going to take that into your adult life and hopefully keep moving forward with it, at least even in your own backyard.
And I think it's critical because we've also learned, as you talked about contaminants in the soil, we've learned from talking to farmers in the area, to farmers outside of the state even, that I think one of the ones I was thinking of is King Grove Organic Blueberry Farm in Lake County. But they are big into organic, and they are very specific. I remember Hugh telling us that their feeling is that for the people that are purchasing their own produce and purchasing their own food, his feeling was, it's a weird thing to say, but his feeling was that the food is too inexpensive. And so when you talk about raising the next generation of farmers and making sure people are making a good living doing this instead of making those, the slave labor, so to speak, I hate to say it that way, but it's like a whole mindset change that we all need to get on board with, that if you're not growing this yourself and you want to get the right food, you need to be prepared to pay more for it, to help not just pay for the food itself, but to help pay for the people that are doing the work,
doing the hard work.
And it's in my mind, that is that's an uphill battle, because as a country, we're so used to paying X amount for tomatoes or X amount for this or X amount for that. And there's this weird shock people have when it costs, 2 or 3 times as much. So,
and that's why I said we're kind of an anomaly, because we're still trying to keep our prices competitive.
Yeah.
But we're really trying to create a whole movement and a shift in entire population of people's mindset and thinking, and just having these conversations. That's why I never say no to a podcast or an interview, because to me, I'm trying to be the one who is broadcasting this net to be a voice of every urban farmer that comes after us, so that we can hopefully get people to say, well, maybe I won't go to the movies every week. Maybe instead I'll treat myself to, going to the farmer's market and buying a little bit more at a higher price value, because, most people of privilege have the ability to have disposable income, and they will use it for frivolous things like, oh, I don't really like the way this couch looks. Let me throw it away and get a new couch. Well, maybe you can instead change your mindset and just pay more for your food, because you now know all of these issues that coincide with us buying really cheap food at the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for me personally, as I get older, full disclosure, we have disposable income like every middle-class family, but as I get older, we do find ourselves spending more money and more time towards the more important things like that. Farmers markets are very common for us.
And shopping at different places, different smaller businesses
local
to get
businesses.
Our food. We still do have to go to Publix and stuff like that. It's convenient right down the road. But we love, you probably know the pharmacy. They used to be in Winter Garden. Now they're out at Lake Meadows, I think is where they moved to.
Yeah.
But we love them down there so much.
Yeah. And that's really great, and the more that you try to perpetuate that and share it with the community, the better. And it really comes down to the fact that convenience piece is what has driven our entire society to do things that actually are more harmful towards our
undoubtedly
health.
Yeah, the convenience, definitely.
I love you guys. I love that you guys are changing the education, though, because for someone my age, I think maybe it's a natural process where it starts becoming more important to you. But if the next younger generation can find this to be important to them, and the next one before them at a much younger age, like we've alluded to here, that's where the mindset really starts changing from early on. Because if people are willing to invest when they're younger, and maybe they don't have that disposable income, like you said, it's easier for us, as you get older. But when you're younger, that's a much bigger investment for you to say, look, I'm not going to go to the movies. I'm not going to buy new furniture.
Yeah.
I'm not going to goof around. I'm not going to order a pizza. I'm going to invest my money in where it really matters. So I love that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, that's great. So you guys have partnered with O Compost, correct?
O Town
Compost. That's right. And I read about them too. I don't know. I'm looking stuff up, but I got on their newsletter and I'm like, when are you guys coming to my area? But they're not out
Angie's
here yet.
Been making her own compost bin in the backyard, which is fine. It's great. But it's just like an old trash bin that we're just filling.
I actually started it after I was on one of the Zoom calls that you guys did, and it was all about composting. And then I started it shortly after that.
Oh, great. Yeah. So Charlie has been one of our mentors. Like I said, I was promoted to Chief Operations Officer with ideas. So now my purview is more around energy, water, food, waste, and ecology. Whereas when I first started, I was strictly under fleet farming. So it was just that food pillar.
Yeah.
So now that I was able to kind of, in my promotion, broaden my scope of work, Charlie was one of the first people I worked with who comes from a waste management background. And he was doing some consulting for corporations to, learn how to do better waste audits and how to divert a lot of their waste from the landfill. And then he decided to branch out into his own O-Town Compost local food waste delivery service or pickup service.
Yeah.
And we wanted to help him. So we helped do photography and we help do videos, and we're helping to promote him any way that we can. And in return, I mean, he's been able to donate a pretty substantial amount of compost that people that don't want it back, because you can have the option to like get your compost delivered back to you after you've been picking up food waste for so long. If they live in an apartment or something and they're not growing food, they say give it to fleet farming. And so he's been giving us
amazing. Yeah, so something they have done is actually they've gone to the horse farms, correct?
Yeah,
and
he just started a horse farm.
Yeah, and that because there's so much waste that's generated by, animals, and they are setting them up actually on the horse farms, and then they
go get the
compost it, and
I love it.
And hopefully a lot of that's being donated to you, because that's some good compost right there.
I mean, what people don't know is that, and I'm just learning this, all my years of growing now, the fact that the silver lining of being able to slow down our operations is that I've been able to invest in like rebuilding our training manuals and really heighten our methods. And in learning more about the soil and interviewing soil scientists, which I definitely recommend you check out our YouTube, because we've been recording all these interviews with soil scientists.
I'm going to put a link in the show notes for those of you guys that are listening on the podcast.
Yeah. Life starts in the soil.
Oh,
and I feel like so many of our problems could really be altered if we invested in our soil. Not even in the growing food piece, because growing food is contingent upon your soil.
Yeah.
It really starts with building an ecosystem in your soil.
Yes.
And I think what people don't realize is how simple that is when you do certain things to just alter your behavior.
Yeah.
Like taking your food scraps, taking your beautiful leaf debris. Mm-hmm. People throw that away, and to me that's gold. Like, if my boyfriend comes home with a bag of leaves, like, to me that's better than a birthday gift. Like,
it sounds like you.
Like,
I know, we've cut a lot of brush down, and I'm like, no, we're mulching that. That's gonna make this sugar sand in the backyard some good stuff.
Yes, because then you can build your soil, and that invites birds to come and eat more worms and more things out of your soil, which then invites a whole ecosystem of things to come and interact with you. And every year, as I'm hitting these different goals with my yard, my landlord thinks I'm crazy, but I'm noticing rabbits. I'm noticing new species of birds moving in and feeling comfortable enough to build their nests in some of the trees I planted. And you just start with something as simple as composting, which I said to Charlie yesterday. I was on a panel with him. It's kind of like a gateway drug to environmentalism.
Yeah.
When you start with composting, you start to slowly look at everything you do and realize that you can create a closed loop system in your home.
Isn't it funny that we have to be taught? This is so ironic to me. We have to be taught to live in sync with the ecosystem that would just work if we were more naturally living from day one. We talked about this also with King Grove, but like you're saying, if you just really, we talked about it with the Pasture Brothers as well, but if you get in sync with the nature, it just takes over and it works. Imagine that.
Yeah.
We go to all this work to fight against it.
Yes, to fight against it instead of work in harmony with it. Exactly.
Yeah, we have an Ideas for Us branch in Liberia, for example, and one of their biggest issues is that some of the remote villages, they practice open defecation, and that pollutes a lot of their waterways and some of the fishing towns. But then they also have issues of cook stoves, where they will deforest an area and then take the wood and make charcoal briquettes, which they cook indoors, and that causes women to have like a quarter of their life basically cut off because they're like exposed to this, breathing in these fumes. Whereas if they just switch that, where they grow, they use their own, defecation in their composting, they use their food scraps and everything and make their own compost, grow their own food, so they don't have to walk all the way to go and collect, food or water, or wood.
Yeah.
And you can use your dried food scraps for charcoal as well.
Yeah.
And then you can cook outdoors and create more like communal cooking spaces. All of those things could probably shift an entire culture.
Yeah.
But because they've been doing it the same way for so long and have been living in extreme poverty for so long, getting education into these remote areas is difficult. So our leaders in Liberia do that. They travel hours by foot to get into these remote areas to teach people how to live more communally and to exercise these practices. And it's so simple because nature gives you everything you need. It is so abundant.
Yeah.
We just need to be taught again how to build that relationship.
Yeah. Well, that's great that you guys are doing what you're doing, and hopefully you never know who's listening neither to the podcast, that we might spark something in another area. You know.
Sure. I know we're wrapping up now, but I don't want to go too deep down this hole because these are the kinds of conversations Angie and I have. But it's just fascinating to me that we're like the only animal on Earth that for some reason is completely out of sync with nature and destroying everything. And instead of living the way that we're meant to live, which would be better for us, easier for us, and better for the environment. So I think what you guys are doing is hugely important. And thank you for coming on with us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I think that we have a lot to learn as a society, but the fact that we've innovated so quickly since the Industrial Revolution, it's really something that does set us apart. Now I think just using our advantage and finding a way to guide people back to a more holistic way of living is our next journey that we have to take as a civilization. I'm very excited for that journey, and I hope to be a part of it.
Well, it sounds like you are part of it, but I like that idea too. I like the idea that we use what we've learned, we use the technology we have to do just that, because that's not the way you normally think about, the direction that we're heading.
Yeah. So, Lee, tell us what is the best way to find out about fleet farming and ideas for us?
Yes, so fleetfarming.org is our website. I'm working on the pages that we offer free educational tools. The veggie list on there has recipes and everything. So if you live in Orlando or Central Florida, the varieties that are there are some of the best that you can utilize in your practices that are like a for-sure guarantee that they will grow. And just look at our resources at fleetfarming.org. If for ideas for us, you can go to ideasforus.org. It's a global organization that was based here out of Orlando.
So cool.
And I really highly recommend that you take a look at our YouTube and just watch some of our videos. And please email us if you have any questions, info@ or contact @ ideasforus or fleetfarming.org.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, and I'll put links to everything you just said and everything we've discussed in the show notes as well. So if you're listening to this on your device, you can just scroll down and click on it and go straight to the website.
So we are excited for things to kind of get back to normal, hopefully in the near future. Everybody starts, walking a tight line here. And we are excited to come and join a swarm ride when you guys start having those again.
Absolutely.
Because it sounds fun. I like to get dirty.
And when it comes to your yard, you can feel free to bring like a bag, and we can load you up with some cuttings so you can go home and propagate your own little garden.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Happy rest of your Sunday.
Thank you. You guys have a wonderful weekend, and thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and you enjoy the rest of your weekend as well.
Thank Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Lee. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us for that interview. We're going to take a very quick break, and then we'll be right back to wrap up the show. So stand by.
like the brainiac of the whole community. And I love that about you, dude.
Hey guys, welcome back, and thanks again to Lee Perry for that awesome interview with Fleet Farming. Also, you'll notice in the last 5 minutes we've completely changed clothing, and the camera's probably at a different angle because we're recording the back half of the show
No, I'm wearing the same shirt.
on a different day. Oh, you are?
I fit the same shirt.
I could have done that. I don't know if I could have done much.
I mean, I did have my PJs on, so at least I changed out of those and got into the shirt that I wore during the interview.
Well, it's
was
been a couple days for me, and I'm not taking this hat off right now. Trust me, you don't want me to.
That was a great interview,
It
though.
really was.
We probably literally could talk to her for 2 to 3 hours because her scope goes way beyond just the fleet farming.
Yeah,
and
it
the things
does.
that she's doing for the environment and, just kind of paying attention to laws that are going into effect that need to be passed to help with the things that she's passionate about.
I know. I love it. I love how into it she is. And you can tell that is truly her passion. It's not just a job for her.
And I love how Lee said, I think we asked the question, was this something that you've kind of always known that you wanted to do?
Yep.
Or, did you have an aha moment in your life where I'm like, oh, I need to help with this? And she said that her mom said that she was kind
Like
of
that
born
from-
like
yes.
that, like always having an awareness.
I love
and
that.
I think being Native American as well kind of plays into that because the whole
closer to nature.
Yeah, having that what do I want to say? Symbiotic
Yeah.
relationship with the earth.
And maybe embracing her heritage, because Native Americans are notorious for, and I'm actually part Native American, but it's a little tiny percentage.
I'm a little tiny percent of too. You can see all the Irish in here, though.
Yeah. But I guess my Native American trait you can see is that I am almost 50 and cannot grow a beard. But I still have all my hair on my head.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. But I think that Native Americans are known for being more in sync with nature historically.
Yes.
So I love that.
Something we all need to aspire to do, I believe. So I love the information that they have on the Fleet Farming website. So
Yes.
if you have questions about, how to get rid of pests organically, how to kind of prep your yard for being able to grow an edible landscape. I mean, it is all there. They are really about educating the community. And they had one blog that because we want to plant an edible landscape when we're redoing our yard.
Yes,
and
we
that's
do.
kind of what we're working on.
Yep.
And we're talking about doing more native plants so that we are, planting things that pests aren't going to bother because they're used to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever that is. Whatever I'm trying to say.
You mean, well, also you're talking about like edible landscape, right?
Yeah, but it's edible. So one of the blogs they have is Florida's 7 wild edible plants.
And what is it called?
It's called Florida's 7 wild edible plants. So
So it's Florida7wildedibleplants.com?
No, it's a blog that they have.
Oh.
On the Fleet Farming.
I was about to say, what a horrible domain name.
No, but this is just, so a few of them were blackberries.
Yep.
So those grow in the wild.
Oh, I remember collecting those as a kid.
Yeah.
We used to go out in the woods and pick them, get all scratched up, and then go back to my friend's house and put them in a cup with a little sugar and milk, and then eat them like
yummy. And a tree that I did not know grew wild here was kumquats.
that. Oh, I didn't either.
The little like orange.
I know what they are.
Looking,
those are native
berries.
to here?
Yes. So
Wow.
it grows right in the wild. So that's a great tree to put in your backyard, and you can do all sorts of things with kumquats. You can even do vodka infuse them.
Oh,
Yeah.
while they're on the tree?
No,
I'm
of
just
course
kidding.
not. And then another one that you should know, because we have learned about this fruit that grows natively in Florida.
Is it a palm frond? Siri's trying to help me. Is it a saw palmetto?
No, it's muscadine grapes.
Muscadine grapes.
Yeah, so we've
I
learned
knew
all
that.
about those from Hutchinson
I did,
Farm and
what
Vineyard.
is she
Yeah.
doing? I got an iPad that's gone
Siri.
nuts on me. Sorry.
She's going crazy. And there
Oh,
was
the muscadine
Yes, the
grapes. That's
muscadine grapes.
right.
And then another one, this one's really interesting. I really want to find this and plant some of these in our yard, in our garden. It's called I think it's called Betony, Betony. And it gets like a little purplish flower, and you can eat the roots of it, and they have like a radish taste.
Wow.
And
you don't like radishes, though.
Well, I still eat them if they're available in the yard. You know what I mean? And we've learned that radishes are really good for the soil too. Remember, because it brings
that's right.
certain microbes up.
Some of them break through.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull up the Fleet Farming one more time. And if you're listening on the audio podcast, it's fleetfarming.org. We'll put the link to this and everything we're talking about in the show notes like normal.
Yes.
So yeah, they were, she was awesome, and we can't wait to meet her in person and learn more about Fleet Farming in person. That's going to be great.
And do the swarm rides.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I think it's the second and fourth Sunday of every month that they do that when it's not COVID-19.
Yeah.
But they meet down in Audubon Park. You can find all the details on fleetfarming.org.
Yep.
And they do you can bring your bicycle, rent a bicycle, and they go from garden to garden.
Oh, that'd be so
little
fun.
farmlet to farmlet. And you are learning while you're doing it.
Yeah.
And you can even, like she said, take home some of the pickings, start it in your own garden.
Yeah, I love that.
Get some of the lettuce and stuff like that to take home.
So we'll definitely do that
really
when the
cool.
world goes back to normal, and maybe we'll make a little video clip while we're doing it.
Get on our bikes.
Well, yeah, get on our
Yay.
bikes, and then we'll bring back more information and maybe a little video clip of it so that we can spread the word and you guys can see what it's like.
Yeah, it's really cool. And somebody else that we talked about with Lee on the show was O-Town Composting.
That's right.
Yeah, so they're doing something really cool where it's only certain zip codes. So you can go to otowncompost.com to find out if you are in that zip code, but it's in like the city area.
Right.
But they're working their way. You know, they have a list where you can send your zip code in, so hopefully they'll be in your area soon. But what they do is they compost your food scraps.
Yeah.
So they leave a bucket or two at your doorstep. You put the things that you can compost in those buckets, and they pick them up like either on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. You pay a certain fee for it.
Wow.
And then every 6 months you get some of their gold.
That is amazing.
O-Town gold right there, baby. So some good compost that they'll deliver back to you.
Yeah.
Or you can have it donated
if you don't want it
to places like Fleet Farming for urban agriculture, urban farming, or for community gardens that they do. So
nice.
Pretty cool. But something really cool is that they have diverted, I think they keep a little tracker on their website. And so far, I think they're only about 7 months that they've been doing this.
Right.
They've diverted 9,693 pounds of food waste from landfills here in Orlando.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And so they're helping towards that Orlando zero waste goal.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're doing a pretty darn good
Love
job of it.
I
It's
love
pretty awesome.
That's great. So let's switch gears for a minute. Let's talk about, you have some news.
I do have some news.
You have some important news.
Well, do we want to do the important news first? Yeah, let's do the important
Why
news
not?
first.
I mean, how can you hold it in?
I know. So, yesterday, June 30th at 9:10 p.m., we officially became grandparents.
That's right.
We officially became GrAnjee and DanPa.
That's right.
That's our grandparent names to a beautiful, I'm not going to share her picture yet because I let parents do that. That's up to them. A beautiful little over 7 pound baby girl, Oakley Rain Nissen.
Yes.
She's got her celebrity name already.
She does, and I'm pre-ordering
Hello?
Disney passes, so we'll be
you know
ready.
What? You know what we should get them, but
What?
when we go to see them, because they're still in the hospital, and we need to be really careful when we go over
Of course.
anyway.
Yep.
But we should get baby mini ears to take over.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. We should get a onesie made. You know, you can't see. You used to be able to go to the mall in the kiosk, but now you can't do anything. But how cool would it be to show up with a onesie that said like future pass holder? That'd be great.
But we can make one. We could just do one of
An
those little
iron-on.
press-on things. Oh, we should totally go.
Do that.
We should go to
if
Hobby
we didn't
Lobby.
just blow the surprise right now, because this will air on Thursday.
I know. I don't think they'll hear it, though.
Maybe
they're,
not.
They're a
They're tied
little tied up right now. But
Yeah.
anyway, she's beautiful. I did
Indeed.
FaceTime with her
Yeah.
today.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I did. So
Oh, how cool is that?
Austin called me. We FaceTimed, and I
You
talked
know you
to
can
her.
record a FaceTime.
I should have, and I
Oh,
didn't because
that
I was
would've
too in the moment.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But I made sure she heard her GrAnjee's voice.
Oh.
And my son was holding her, and he was about to feed her and letting his woman sleep it off because she'd had the hard job. you
Yes,
know?
indeed she did.
So congratulations, Austin and Taylor. I can't wait to meet little Miss Oakley and love on her a little bit
Oh,
or a lot.
I love it. Me neither. I can't wait either. Congrats.
So anyway, that was, of course, the most
The
exciting
big news. Yes.
But something exciting happened in the house.
Yes, it did actually. So, you know what? I know exactly what you're talking about. So we have been talking about Shabby Jo's. I'm going to pull that up on screen for a minute if you're listening. We'll
Yes.
put all the links in there. What Shabby Jo's does is she sells furniture that's been refurbished or redone or recolored or stained or whatever. And I don't know, is her business model normally to take your old stuff, or she just has her own stuff?
She
is
does
it both?
both.
Is
She
it
does
both?
custom pieces. So you can have a piece that you want refurbished. She does in kind of like the distress style,
Yes,
this
I love
farmhouse style, which is really popular right now. But
Yep.
she's talented and can do other things as well.
Yeah.
She even builds some things.
Yes.
So that's really cool. That's how they started, actually.
As for her building furniture?
Yeah,
oh, wow.
she started with little farmhouse benches and entry
nice.
tables and stuff like that, and it's kind of grown.
Well, you can tell she knows what she's doing. So we bought at a flea market
Mhm.
about a year ago, not a flea market, at a garage sale. We bought like an old
Hoyser.
Hoyser?
Hoyser. I don't know how you say it.
It's like an old counter that you would use. And I know
Mhm.
we've mentioned this before. It's got like the white countertop. It's made out of porcelain or metal or porcelain covered metal or something.
Yeah, it's like a
But it was-
metal covered by porcelain.
Yeah,
Yep.
but it was old and beat up and, like this ugly color brown. And it was like one side of it was like all ripped up, and she took it and check this out. We have a slide. I want to show you how she
Before and
converted it
after.
into the coffee bar that we wanted. Check this out. So
Look at that.
there's where it started. Now, of course, when I posted this online, I had some friends go, "Oh, cool! She did the refrigerator and the floor too." But that, this is our house renovation, so it's
Yes.
all in great timing. But we've got it all set up now. This thing is so awesome. She put a little sign in it. A chalkboard on the right. And she teased me about my chalk writing. She said we have to talk about that chalkboard art or chalkboard art.
I
skills.
think she thought because it was amazing.
Yeah,
it's
that's what I
really
mean.
good. Yeah.
So we, but there we go. So we're gonna put our whatever coffee we have that week up there, and it's turned out to be a really cool piece of
I love
furniture in our kitchen. So we're getting closer.
Love it.
I do too. What a great job, and thanks again
Yeah.
for doing that for us.
So we have a table that we are hoping to match that as well.
Dining room
So,
table. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's gonna be cool.
I might try to do that one myself, Joe Ellen, just because it's so big and heavy that
yeah.
I don't know
Gonna
if I want to
haul it
move it
over.
around, but we'll see. Like if I start it and go, no, be bringing
Yeah,
it right out to her.
Of course. But
That's right.
we're about to do an event with Shabby Jo's. So let's talk about
We
that for a
are.
minute.
Actually, Joe Ellen will actually be on the show next week, July 7th.
That's right.
On Tuesday, Facebook Live.
Right. So we'll pull up pictures of that again for sure.
Yep. And she is doing the barn raiser for Evangeline. So Evangeline is a 2-year-old that has been diagnosed with cancer.
Yep.
And her family are in need of some help.
Yes.
Because financially, with COVID going
Oh
on,
gosh. Yeah.
and she's doing therapy. I want to say that Joe said they were going up daily,
Right.
and it's like a 2-hour drive for her therapy. So for her chemotherapy. So they are definitely in some need, and a well-deserving family.
Yes.
All the proceeds from this event that she is actually throwing
Yep.
will be going to the family. And it's going to be held at the Old Red Barn of Geneva.
Right.
And if anybody knows in Apopka, there's that Trader Mays. It's like this little antique mall. That's the same kind of thing that the Old Red Barn of Geneva is.
Oh, very cool.
Yes.
So how does the event going to work? Do you know?
So they're running the event for 9 days. And what they're going to do is they're going to have all of the vendors there are donating an item or two, whatever it may be,
Right.
from their little shops.
Yep.
And there's going to be like a silent auction on the items. So the silent auction will go on for the whole 9 days so that
Right.
the bidding can go up and up and up. So hopefully they can raise more money for the family. And then on the last day, it'll be like the big kabam of whoever wins the silent auction.
Right.
And they're going to do it where you don't have to come every day to bid on something. You can check their Facebook page
Oh, okay.
and bid as well.
Very nice.
And then stay tuned for next Tuesday because we're going to have a special auction item too.
Very nice.
And we're hoping to kind of get that, get a little more for that item as well. So,
And you said we're doing a Facebook Live then next week, so that's great.
Facebook Live
Very
with
nice.
Miss Jo Ellen to talk about her business and the event she is doing for Evangeline and Evangeline's family.
And do we know what day or time that's going to be?
The event,
The Facebook Live.
Facebook Live, is Tuesday, July 7th at 8:30 p.m.
Oh,
our
very
normal
nice.
time.
And
Yes.
what about the event itself?
The event itself, if you want to pull that screen back up, July 17th through the 25th. So on the 25th, we will be out at the event.
Yep.
As well as will the Kitchen Killers
Oh,
doing a little
nice.
performance to help to support the family as well. So you'll get some great entertainment from the Kitchen Killers. Oh, we don't have the Kitchen Killers.
I
should have
had
made their
one.
thing
I
up.
had
That's
one.
okay.
Oh, I don't have it ready though. Yeah.
That's okay. We love the Kitchen Killers. You can find them on Facebook at Kitchen Killers, at Kitchen Killers. Killers, just like it says. K-I-L, or just like it sounds. K-I-L-L-A-Z.
Okay, maybe I'll dub up a picture of the Kitchen Killers in there when we make the video there.
Okay.
But that's going to be a great event for a great cause.
Yes, it is going to be a wonderful event. She has been working very hard on it.
Yeah, I bet.
And she's had a lot of people donate items, and I think it's going to do very well.
Oh, I hope so.
And I do just want to mention that we had the CARE Foundation on here a couple
Yes.
weeks ago. Joellen did a fundraiser for them before and raised over $11,000 for the
Oh,
CARE
my goodness.
Foundation.
Wow.
So this girl is serious about giving back to the community.
No doubt.
And she's a small business, so we want to help support her as well.
Indeed, we do.
Yes.
You have all the information tonight. I love it. I'm just drifting.
I do. I know. You're just, kind of, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so those are our exciting things that happened. We're
That's-
sprucing up our house.
Yes.
We got a new little baby.
It's a lot. There's a lot going
I know.
on.
We just need a dog and everything's good.
I know.
See, that's
well,
next.
It's close.
It's coming
We've been
up.
saying it forever. We're getting a fence soon.
I did say we're waiting till next year though for the dog.
Yeah.
But
Well, you said we would make that the wedding present.
that's
to each
our
other.
wedding present to each other is the dog.
Yes.
Yeah, as long as we can find the right fit. But that's it from me.
All right. Well,
That
that's
is
it for
it.
me too. I just want to remind you guys that you can contact us anytime by emailing us at feedback@fineanddanjee.com.
That's the best way.
That is the best way. Or you can call 407-490-3899. Leave us a voicemail and contact us that way as well. We're always looking for guests. We've got a really good guest lineup. We got a couple of new ones that came in yesterday I forgot to tell you about.
Yes.
Angie, but I will tell you about them because you are the keeper of all coordination. That's right. But anyway, so if you know someone that would be a good guest on the show, if you yourself would like to be a guest on the show, or if you just want to call and chat, give us some thoughts or ideas, we'd love to hear from you. Again, 407-490-3899 or feedback@fineanddanjee.com.
That's right, guys. And if you enjoy the podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you know when new shows are coming up. We try to have a guest every single week.
Yep.
We have not missed a guest too many times.
No, we've been really good about having a lot of guests.
Yeah, we really have. Even with this trying time right now, we don't love meeting with our guests on Skype. I want to see them in person, but we're
It's the next best thing.
still bringing you some great people in the community.
And I suspect that it may be sometime, we're having a tough time in Florida getting this virus thing down.
Mm-hmm.
But, until then, I think it's a good temporary solution. And I look forward to getting back out and seeing everybody again, too. I suspect it might be a while, though.
Yeah. So after you guys subscribe, make sure to rate and review us, too. That helps kind of move our podcast up in the charts or whatever they call it.
It really does. And Angie's referring to podcast apps. So when we say rate, review, and subscribe, that means if you're listening to us on YouTube, not really something you can do. You can definitely subscribe. But if you're listening on a podcast app like the ones I have on screen here, and if you're listening to the audio version right now, you probably already know because you're probably on a podcast app like Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify. Those kinds of things give you the opportunity to rate, to subscribe, and that really, really helps us. However, if you're not super tech savvy and you don't really care about having access to a podcast app, you can always listen to the show directly from fineanddanjee.com as well.
Or YouTube. That's right.
That's right.
And you can also I can't talk. I always have a part in every podcast where it just doesn't come out.
If I had the time to dig through it, I should make a back-to-back video of you doing the...
It's every single one.
I know.
Every single one where the brain just completely turns off. I mean, it literally completely turns off. But I just wanted to say, you can check us out on our social media just under Fine and Danjee, and make sure to give us a like and a follow. We would love to have you following us.
We would enjoy that.
And I got my
very
little
much.
singing in right there.
You did.
There we go.
Every episode. We also want to remind you to stay safe out there, especially if you're in this area, but really anywhere in the country right now. I think we're going through a heavy spike of coronavirus cases in many areas. In our area, it's particularly bad right now. So stay safe out there, and we will see you next week on Facebook Live.
That's right. Please join us. It's going to be a great show.
Yes.
And remember, at the end of each and every day,
It's all fine and dandy.